We learn to count from an early age. Later, we learn that every moment counts and to count what matters. What are you counting today? That's our topic for this episode, the 100th episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast. This is a program that we've created to provide some perspective and encouragement for those who answer the call to be educators, teachers, coaches, administrators, board members, staff members, guidance counselors, librarians, the whole list. And we're just so thankful for what you do and being there for people and loving them through their journey and even growing in your own journey. And that's why we do this. And this is a special episode. We've got some team here with us, with Tammy and Rachel and Amy are also here with me because they've been a part of this journey as we've tried to create an experience and some resources and some tools that would provide some training, maybe some inspiration, and certainly some insights that would be an encouragement for you as you walk the journey of this role. And we know that it takes a lot of different people to be a part of this. Just like on our team, we work together, and we're it's a team that's it's an honor to be a part of and working with these people because they're so talented and they bring they give us different ideas and Tammy particularly gives a lot of inspiration. She gets to read through all the messages that we're creating together and give feedback and creating some of the messages as well. And so it's a fun team that we get to be a part of this and being and creating the stories but also in what we do with schools around the world. And we actually walked into a workshop in New York City this week. And it was really interesting where as we walked in, someone said, "Hey, I know that voice." And it was because we were talking and she just talked about how much she uses this podcast for her own encouragement. She's driving into work and they use it for some of the professional development there at their school. It's kind of cool, right?
We're kind of the ones behind the scenes. You usually hear and see Scott, or you always hear and see Scott, but we're behind the scenes like you all are. You're in the trenches with us, and you are living out what we talk about, and you're living in the lives of students and making such an impact. And we are so very thankful because you're the reason, you're the experience we talk about. You are the reason why we exist and why we're here. And we want to honor you and to help guide you and give you some joy in your work and a little perspective. And so that's kind of where the podcast is about and what we try to do.
And so Tammy's my wife, and we work together as a team and leading school growth as well as an educator's fellowship. Rachel is our chief operations officer and helps keep all of us straight.
She does.
We are a full-time ministry, I can tell you that for sure. and Rachel does such a great job in helping to guide our content strategy and a lot of our marketing, but also leading our team as well. So we're very great. Rachel, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. And as a mom of young children, I just can't thank educators enough for all you do. Just truly a calling, as Scott said.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Amy's here as well. Amy's is a recent addition to the school growth team, and Dr. Amy Swann has extensive experience as an educator. We're so excited, Amy, that you're a part of what we're doing as well, and you're bringing a whole new level of insights, especially as we try to offer very specific tools and guidance and what we call organizational therapy, right? Is trying to also bring that to the classroom and making sure that we're transforming the leadership and at a much broader range of schools as well. So Amy, thanks for being a part of this journey.
I'm so thrilled to be part of School Growth and the team. It's such an amazing team of people, and to be able to really help schools, help them improve and help them transform and help them solve problems, and to just be able to inspire educators. I love it. I'm so excited.
It's just it's a real privilege. I love that. And what we're focused on today, of course, we're celebrating 100 episodes. And when we first started this, it was, and actually Tammy came up with the name of the educators among us. And it's from a verse in the Bible where it talks about the angels among us. And because we consider educators to be the angels. I mean, they bring a hope and they bring a protection and they bring such a vital part to our lives. And that's why we named this podcast Educators Among Us, to celebrate educators and also to maybe be an inspiration back to you as well. And so that's what we do this. And our theme for this week is who's counting? Right? Who's counting? And we're counting. I mean, we counted up 100 episodes. That's why this is such a celebration for us. But I love this quote from Fyodor Dostoevsky that says, "Man is fond of counting his troubles, but he does not count his joys. If he counted them as he ought to, he would see that every lot has enough happiness provided for it." Right? In other words, man, if we don't forget to count the blessings, well, it's life changing. And we shared in a previous episode about how important perspective is, right? It's like the WD-40 of life, right? And that's what this is really about. Is we celebrating milestones is an important part of life. We start counting from the very beginning at a young age, and the first word, the first steps, the first time riding a bike, the first time leaping off the diving board, and then that continues as we start counting those first place finishes and first date and first dance and first driver's license. Right? There's always these firsts, we learn how to count because math is such an important skill in life. And Tammy was a math teacher, and so we learn how to count, but learning what to count, right? That gives greater clarity in measuring growth, progress, and impact, right? And so that's what we want you to consider in today's episode is what you count matters as well.
And looking at it from when Scott was talking about looking at it from different perspectives, when Christ looked at the cross, he didn't look at all of the tribulation, all the persecution, everything that he was going to have to face. He counted it all joy. He counted it joy because he saw the end game. His perspective was, what was he going to accomplish? What was going to be the end game? What was he saving us for and to? And when we are in the latter days or of working in a school such as now, although at any point in time in the school year, when you come to those moments in time when there are so many problems coming up and student issues or something happens, look at the end game. Look at the impact you're having on a child's life. Look at what you're creating in that child, how you're inspiring them, and continue forward based on what you are giving, and count the joy, not the tribulations.
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me, there's one of the quotes that we use in our Monday encouragement. And by the way, I know a lot of people listen to the podcast. If you're not receiving the Monday encouragement, it's a free message that we share every Monday morning about 7:30 in the morning that we send out, and would love to have you sign up for that. If you go to schoolgrowth.com, you can subscribe to that, and it's sort of the written message that we share here in the podcast, and it's available to anybody. We have subscribers all around the world, and it's been just such a pleasure. We sometimes get responses back from people that said, are you reading my email? How did you know that I needed that today? I don't know. That's weird, and so it's kind of fun to be a part of that journey with you. And so thank you for that feedback. So one of the things that reminds me, Tim, what you mentioned was there's a quote from St. Ignatius that says, "Teach us to give and not count the cost." right? Teach us to give and not count the cost. What you count matters. It's not just learning how to count, it's learning what to count, right? Motivation comes in various forms, from inside as well as from outside, right? There's different places, but the most important impetus for us is knowing that other people are counting on us to deliver our best, right? They're counting on us to show up. They're counting on us to be prepared. They're counting on us to also know how to handle the heat, because we all know school happens, right? School happens. I mean, there's this stuff that we're working with families and students and all that comes with that. We have to love families through birth, through death, through marriage, through divorce, through life, right? And so, but they count on us to provide consistency and integrity. Where they have confidence in our day-to-day conduct, and they know for sure that we will follow through on our commitments. It's a vital part of us as educators, and because anyone who chooses this vocation, they may count the cost, right? They consider it, but. And listen, and I know, Amy, you've seen some of this, and Rachel, you have too. Some barely endure the wear and tear on body, mind, and spirit. It's real, right? But others figure out how to gain strength through the resistance, right? And that's part of Tammy's she's headed to a workout after our episode today, and part of what you do is you use that resistance to do what? To build muscles, right? To help strengthen, and there are, with a healthy perspective, you can shift some of those that wear and tear. You can actually shift it into ways of building strength. And I know, Rachel, you've seen that in some of your experiences as a parent and working with schools as well. It's an interesting way of utilizing some of that friction to still grow.
Absolutely. And going back to what you were saying about counting, the lives that we're affecting as educators. I just had a little story from yesterday. I visited my daughter's classroom, and man, this special day the teacher had put together for these pre-Kers, she went all out. She must have been planning for a month for this day. It was all about learning about fairy tales. They had been studying fairy tales and different types of stories, and she had put together a full day of activities, built stuff for them, all these things for them to discover that day. And I just thought, man, that took a lot of effort. But what I was counting were the little smiles on their faces, the lives that she touched that day, the joy in each of their faces. And I sent her a message and I said, you have no idea how much impact you're having on those students, and you are a wonderful teacher. And I just wanted her to count that, in her head, not all the hours she put in, which I'm sure were a ton, all the work she put in, but those little lives, that she affected that day. I just wanted her to count that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, teach us to number our days. This is the writing in Psalm 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Okay? And that's an interesting perspective, right? As we said, it's not just learning how to count, it's what to count. And there's an advantage that you gain when you remember that our time is limited, right? Time is such a precious resource. Remembering our days are numbered, it elevates our sense of urgency and humility. And Amy, I know you've seen this as you've worked with a wide range of educators who have both that combination of an urgency. I mean, they get it done, right? I like to use that line from Larry the Cable Guy, right? We get her done, right? But also sustaining that humility. And that's a hard tension, right? But somehow the best educators figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting as an educator when you think about like what you're counting. It's often hard as a teacher to see what are the results, right? What's the end product? You often don't get to see it. But in business, people are always talking about the return on investment, right? And they're counting that ROI. And in education, we really have to look at what's the return on education, right? What's the return on the education that we're giving these children, right? Where are we taking them? And in the classroom, like, as a teacher, I still count, and I love the kids that still reach back to me. The kid's wife who has now reached out to me and said, "Hey, can you give a message for Leroy's 40th birthday? He would love just a video message from you." And the kids that are being really successful now in their lives, and then as an education leader, it's amazing to see the return on education when kids are graduating, and they're going on to college, and they're going on to a career, and you see some of those successes, and it's just, oh wow. And then also as an education leader, you see the teachers that are being successful and shining. Because as a leader, your job is the educators, right? Loving them and leading them and watching them grow and shine. And, last night I got this message sent to me from this educator that I helped to grow. And she's also just this amazing gospel singer. And she just sent me this recording of her singing and just shining, and just with a thank you for, things that I've done for her. And it was just, it touches you, and it reminds you that, the things you count are not just the return on investment or the return on education, but also the return on the love that you share with others, right? And I think that sometimes as educators, we forget that we also need that return on love. And I think that's where Educators Fellowship is so powerful, because I think as educators, it's great to have a place where we can come together, and you can come to us, and we'll love on you. And we'll share Christ's love with you, because sometimes as educators, we can walk and show Christ's love sometimes. And even in public schools, we can show it when we can't say it, and we can give that love and share that love of Christ. And it's so important also that we get it back. And that's, in Educators Fellowship, we're really here to share that. And hopefully we can count so many more numbers of the people that we reach, with Christ's love, and just the love for educators, that letting everybody's light shine, and sharing that. And I love counting that, and 100 episodes.
Yeah.
That's great. And, one of the things that Scott and I get to do, which is a huge blessing, is we get to see the end game, because we speak with educators at different conferences. We speak with them in workshops, in the individual schools, as well as the bigger groups and associations. And when we're doing that, we often ask the question, one of the main questions we ask of educators is, who impacted you?
Right.
And so on a weekly, often on a daily basis, we are hearing the impact that educators have still on the lives that it has such a longevity to it. Yeah. And it's something that we get to hear over and over and over. And I know that's not the perspective you have, but because we have that perspective, we know the value that you are bringing to the children in your classroom, to the parents, to those that are counting on you, because, oftentimes you are raising parents, and you are teaching parents as much as you are teaching your students. And so when you are counting, I want you to start counting with your heads and your heart, and not just your head. You look at it from a different perspective. Look at the heart perspective and what you are adding, and the joy and those intangibles that you are giving those who you educate and those who you are teaching, and not just the head knowledge. And that's part of what that quote that Scott just read, when it talked about the heart of the matter, mightily was brought to me. And Scott and I have 7 kids and 18 grandkids. So I think of things from a kid perspective often. Yeah. And we are just so thankful for what you are giving to them, and the heart and soul of what you do, not just the head knowledge.
That's right.
Along with that, Tammy, I really want the educators listening to this to hear very clearly that they matter. And when they're counting those kids, count too, not just the kids that you get to proficiency. Count the kids that you grow, because every kid grows in a different way. Every kid grows at a different pace. and the joy you bring kids, and the love that you share with kids, and the self-esteem kids and your colleagues, it matters. It matters. It so and the growth matters just as much. And please don't forget that. That matters because every kid is different. 1 in 5 kids is neurodiverse. Don't forget it. Kids are different, and every one of them is so special. And God loves every one of us, and we're all different. And don't forget that we're all different, and we may get to proficiency at different times, but we set the markers.
Now, milestones, that's important, right? Because we're in the last sort of stretch run of the school year. It's mid-March. And so in the United States, that we kind of wrap up in the usually in the May-June timeframe, and so this is sort of the stretch run, and this is when, unfortunately, everybody kind of gets tired, right? When spring fever kicks in, and so there's just a lot of distractions, and yet we're still staying true to our calling here. And we mentioned earlier there's this idea of urgency and humility, and that's a combination we don't want to lose, right? Urgency gives energy, and sometimes now some people are really urgent right now because I'm trying to teach maybe a whole semester's worth of curriculum in about maybe a few weeks, right? And so there's an urgency, and then we got to get graduation, we got all this stuff coming up, and so there's an urgency, and sometimes that can stress us out, right? But there's also an urgency that it helps us avoid the traps of worry and distraction and procrastination, right? Those are the things that suck away our impact, and they do affect what we measure. There are some things that we have to measure. We do have to measure how well we're doing, and we have to measure the nature of our relationship with our colleagues and even our own attitude and performance, right? So we're here by design. We're created on purpose for a purpose, right? We're created on purpose for a purpose, to light the path for others. And so combining that sense of urgency to get it done with a humility, because humility enables us to grow in knowledge and still tame the accompanying pride. It's really easy because we get smart, and then sometimes, especially in academia, we kind of get a little bit proud, right? We let that academic arrogance sometimes get in the way of some of the relationships and the other pieces, right? But we count what matters most, right? That's the thing, right? Because arrogance is stifled when a faithful heart counts truth and wisdom as most worthy. We're not just looking for we're not just trying to be smart. We're trying to also bring with that a pursuit of truth, wisdom. And that's one of the things that we see is so vital to the growth of our schools, and healthy schools just are such a massive advantage for educators and students, and for families, for communities, right? Because talented, energized, engaged educators, they change the world. And that's why we find this to be such an important work that we're doing through both school growth and educators fellowship is trying to walk that journey with educators to help to ease the path and find some ways of Teddy mentioned earlier the idea of joy, right? And there's a big difference between those that are working for the job and those that are working for the joy. And that one little letter, it kind of changes everything. It changes whole cultures. It changes the nature of how we resolve conflict. Because if you're working for the job, you kind of want to count how many times someone's offended you. You want to count how someone has not done their job. You start counting the wrong things, right? When you do it for the joy, you remember what matters most, and it changes what you count, right? So our encouragement for you this week is to count what matters most this week, my friend, that you may gain a heart of wisdom, because that is a life-changing thing for you, and your influence, because your influence is so profound, it has an impact on a lot of people. So Guys, thank you for being a part of this celebration. I mean, it's weird that we've gotten 100 episodes, because when we started this, it was like, hey, how do you do a podcast? I mean, what does this look like, right? But being able to combine that with what we share in the weekly encouragement for educators has been it's been a joy, and so I'm grateful for having a team like this. Hopefully, you get to experience at some point in your life a team of people like these people, because they're amazing, and they make us all. We get to make each other better. We get to love each other, and kind of. We also prod each other a little bit, because that's just part of the journey, right? Because I have to keep up with these guys. These are really smart people, and so it's a good challenge to be able to do that. But again, thank you for the many ways that you have contributed to this journey of joy. It's an exciting work, and it's something that as we talked about many times, is that the tail of influence of educators. It's not only through the lives of your students, but also their children. I mean, it's multi-generational, and not many people have the level of impact as you do. And so thank you for your commitment to that work. And just before we close, just a quick coaching question for you to consider, because that's what we like to do, is give you a little bit of a prod, is to say, hey, did I do my best to count what matters today? Did I do my best to count what matters today? Hey, love them and lead them, my friend and our friends. We love you, and we're thankful for you. This is Scott and the team. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast, and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.